This is the story of my drumming journey, and I am actually so excited to share this. It's pretty cool to look back. And so I started playing drums when I was 13, and it started off really simple. My dad had a drum set, and I was about 13, and he just really wasn't playing it. And one day I just sat down and started hitting a crash, and I loved it. It was so fun. And it took me a couple of years, probably till about 15, so 2 or 3 years in, before I started taking it a little bit more seriously. But I just enjoyed hitting stuff. And what kind of fueled that is also that I had seen a guy named Aaron Soto play drums in middle school, or in the middle school and high school ministry at the church that I grew up at, Shepherd Church. And I knew that I wanted to be like him and play drums in a church environment. And I also wanted to make my dad proud. I thought it would be cool to kind of have that connection and do something that he had done. And I wanted to become good enough to play drums in that church environment. And Shepherd Church had and still does have a very high level of musicianship. And so I knew that would be a really good thing. And you can't fake drums live with clicker tracks. There's no real way to use something else. And I also remember times when I'd be practicing in my home in Southern California, and I had this sense that there was something that really didn't want me to practice drums. And ironically, feeling that presence against me, it actually made me believe even more in the necessity of my practice and the need to increase my skill. And I can actually remember times when the sense of this evil presence was so tangible, I'd unconsciously start crying or sweating, and I'd be inviting God into that space. And there were multiple times where I chose to actually stop practicing, even though I wanted to continue so badly, because the feeling was just so overwhelming that I couldn't stay there anymore. And the fact that there was such intense opposition made me believe that this mattered more than I could imagine. And at 15, I started really practicing more consistently and started seeing that discipline and dedication were necessary. I spent 3 hours every day in a summer practicing rudiments from a book called Stick Control, and I had a rule called 3 before 3, and that simply meant my goal was to practice 3 hours of drums before 3 p.m. every single day. And what was cool is I even learned I would say no to going and doing certain things until I had hit that mark. I distinctly remember saying no to go to a pool for 20 or 30 minutes until I'd finished practicing, and that was kind of a normal for me. And I continued to improve. I started working with a drum teacher named Brian Bothwell, as well as another drum teacher later on, and I continued practicing, and I tried out to be able to play drums in the middle school ministry that I had been a part of. And I was really sad, but I wasn't good enough yet. And Byron Aram was actually really, really kind in the way that he presented that, which I think can be a really tough thing, especially the age that I was. I think I was about 16 at the time. And he did a really good job of how he communicated that. And then also my small group leader, Mike Woodward, he kept encouraging me. He actually played drums as well, which was epic. And then I think I tried out 2 more times between 16 and 20, and it became more challenging to do the actual rehearsal or tryouts on Saturdays, so I started working. And I had tried about 3 different times over those 3 or 4 years and had gotten better incrementally, but not enough to really be able to play to click, not enough to have the dynamics that I needed. And I was so close, and right when I was kind of on the edge of being able to play, um, I just really hadn't had enough live experience. That was the thing that was holding me back. I'd done one summer of a jazz thing. I think it was at MI Musicians Institute. There was like a summer jazz thing that you could do. And I did that, and I did drumline actually at a school I didn't even go to. That was also fun. And then there was 1 week in middle school where they had a 100% student-led band, and that was actually pretty funny. And so yeah, so I had those like kind of hodgepodge of experiences, but not enough of something consistently. And I was kind of right on the edge of being good enough. I was super close. And then my sister graduated from high school, and a friend of hers named Josh Gilbert, who also graduated with her, was going to something called Thrive School. And I heard a little bit about it. My mom heard a little bit about it. And she kind of just asked, hey, is that something you'd ever want to do? And I hadn't considered doing something like that before. Because Josh was going to go, he was going to play a lot of music, and I really thought it was a music school at the time. And so I decided to say yes. I just finished my first associate's degree and thought, if I don't do this now, I may not have the chance to say yes to this in a year. Like, life can change a lot in a year, and it wasn't perfect, but I'm willing to go. Plus, also the number side of me, I was like, it's $6,000 for 9 months or $6,000 per semester at CSUN, and that seemed like the better financial decision, as well as being able to answer questions that I wanted answers, which were, I knew I wanted to get better at playing drums, and I wanted to find out if ministry was something that I wanted to do. And so it meant I needed to stop working as a mover, which was something I was doing in the LA area. And then I also quit a job at a grocery store called Food for Less. And so my plan really was to go there, play a ton of drums, get way better, and then come back in 9 months and continue going to college in Southern California. So when I moved to Northern California, I'd been playing drums for about 7 years. Started when I was 13, moved when I was 20. So then I decided to move to Northern California. I do that, and one of the things that hit me that I really that I wasn't expecting was how long I'd have to wait before I could even play drums here at all. And I arrived in the beginning of August, and I didn't play for the first time in any environment until, I think it was either October or November. I don't remember exactly, but it was I think it was at least 2 full months, maybe 3 months. And to me, it felt like an eternity. And a part of that was I had 2 awesome friends of mine, who names were Noah Dion and Seth Kaminsky. And they were both significantly better than I was, and also had a ton of a significant amount more of live experience than I had had. So it was not only did it feel like a long time, but I also had peers that were around me doing exactly what I wanted to be doing, but I wasn't getting the chance to yet. And even though I knew I shouldn't compare myself to them, it was really hard when you're in the same space with the same potential opportunities but not being chosen. That was really hard for me. And during that time, when I moved up here, I was doing drum lessons with Mike Johns, and I was learning some really, really important things that would help me so much over the next few years of my playing, which were really simple things, but things that I had never practiced up until this point. Like some of that being able to rim shot consistently. Like that was really hard in the beginning, to do that and be able to hit it pretty much every single time at the same volume with the same spot on the stick, and just actually practicing that. That's a really simple thing that's easy to overlook, but so much of drumming is literally just hitting snare on 2 and 4. And if you can do that and do it with the same level every time, that's something that not a lot of people want to practice because it's not showy or flashy or cool necessarily. But consistency, diligence, discipline, those sort of things are not necessarily cool, but they matter, especially as a drummer, but in life in general. I also was practicing how to cymbal swell in between songs. That's where you're basically just hitting the cymbals continually with both your hands in between songs. And not every church chooses to do that, but a lot of them, or some of them do. I shouldn't say a lot, but so that was something else. And then also something that I learned how to do that was probably one of the most important things, or the things that I'm most grateful for learning, was I learned how to learn songs more efficiently. And Mike Johns gave me this awesome structure of just going and being able to break down a song and go, okay, for an average worship song, there's a pretty default structure of intro, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge either up or down. Then if it's an up bridge, then it's going to die and then build into a last chorus. If it starts down, then it's going to build up and there's going to be a big last chorus. And there's really just at least with worship music, this was something that he pointed out to me, and I didn't really get it at first. And then I started learning all the songs and I was like, he's got a point. And so it was just really cool to go, how many measures is the intro? How many measures is the chorus? How many measures are the verses or the bridge? And just being able to have that song structure already laid out, it created a roadmap inside of me for the majority of songs, and allows me to look at a song that I've never played before and learn it so much faster because I've already learned different pieces of that song before in different songs. And that's just such a helpful thing for drumming, but also to take that same concept into other areas of my life and ask, what are the building blocks of other problems that I need to solve or other things that I want to improve on? And what are the structures or strategies that I need to learn so that way I can then learn other things faster? And yeah, that was such a, learning how to learn, that was probably one of the most challenging but worthwhile investments of time in terms of my drumming career. And so that was all during the time where I wasn't even playing yet. So I'm still taking these lessons. I'm not playing in any live environments. And I practiced at least an hour every day and was really diligent in whatever Mike asked me to do in terms of if we were doing rim shots or learning specific songs. When I first started, I would write out, and it would take me multiple pages per worship song, which is funny now. But I had a massive, or a normal sized notebook, and for a 4 on the floor, really simple song, it's funny to look back on it now and go, that was really hard for me then. And it's cool to see that progression of what you see as hard and how that changes over time. And then, so fast forward past that point, I actually started getting the chance to play drums in different middle school or high school environments, at Blue Oaks, at Granite Bay, as well as on week nights for Bayside Blue Oaks, Bayside for middle school and high school. And for almost the entire first year, during those sets afterwards, I would ask for feedback. What could I do more? What could I do better? What could I do different? And sometimes I already knew. Sometimes I messed up a part of a song and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's kind of the main thing. How was my volume? Did my cymbals need to be quieter? Did my hits need to be harder? And in the beginning, I kept getting told, hey, you need to hit harder. You need to hit harder. You need to hit harder. Because I had practiced for the majority of my life with my dad working up some stairs not very far away. So I played quietly because I was like, I don't really want to be bothering him. And then when I came to Bayside, they were like, you need to hit harder. So then I learned how to hit a lot harder. And what that actually ended up being an advantage later on, because I had this skill of being able to play more quietly or more loudly. A lot of people can play really loudly, not a lot of people can play slow and quiet, and that it's just a different skill set that doesn't seem like it would be hard, but it's actually really, really hard. And it was like, even in the midst of that, of improving and asking for feedback, it was hard, or it was challenging internally for me, because I felt like I was getting better consistently, but I was still being overlooked. I was pretty much just playing in middle school and high school, and which I also really enjoyed, and I also wanted to play on some of the bigger stages. And a part of it was playing on my own insecurity of when I was younger and trying and constantly not being quite good enough. And so I was kind of playing that same story over in my own mind. And so because of that, and the other players were legitimately better options. Like, if I was looking at it objectively, I would have chosen them too. And so it was more so just like, they had the options. And even despite that, and feeling somewhat overlooked and battling with my own internal insecurity of not being good enough to play in that environment, that didn't stop me from taking every opportunity that I could to improve, to learn, and not just playing drums, but also learning the songs in depth, learning where vocalists need to come in or not, learning the structure of the entire song, so that way I could MD and actually lead the entire band, not just play the song. Because it's one level to be able to play a song, it's another to have click and guide, die, and still be able to walk the rest of the band through the entire song. And as I learned the songs and learned how to be more confident, I would know where I was in a song, even if someone else did. I could sing singers back on. I could recover better if we got off click, and that was a really cool thing, to be able to play a groove and then grab a mic and continue to do that. And there were little things that you learn, like putting a drumstick underneath your arm, so that way you've got a free hand to be able to talk, or sometimes text if you need to. And that was really fun. And then after that, so that was kind of the first year, really primarily middle school and high school, at Blue Oaks, Granite Bay, and a little bit at Adventure. These are all Bayside campuses in Northern California. And then I decided to do a second year of Thrive School, which honestly, I was really unsure if that was the right decision or not. Because remember, all the first year, I really didn't I got a lot better, but I still really didn't feel like I'd gotten a lot of opportunity to do the things that I wanted to do, even though I had gotten to play a lot of drums. And so I actually got the chance to play drums at Bayside Folsom over the summer. And I also had Josh Falcone, or Josh Guerrero, believe in me, and he believed in me and saw that I had the capacity to develop far beyond where I was currently. And he actually took a chance and asked that I be the main drummer for Bayside Folsom. And for my second year, Folsom was my primary campus. And thus I was at Bayside Folsom for the majority of the weekends as well as midweek. And Folsom at that point was also a setup teardown. So I'm also setting up a drum set and tearing it down every single week. And as much as that was at points I just always wanted to be done building my drum set before all the rest of everything else was done. Be able to test my loop rig. And that is why, to this day, I will, if you've ever played music with me, you will know that before a set goes live, if we come up right before a service starts, I will play the track and make sure that everything's still working. That's because at Bayside Folsom, every once in a while, the loop computer would decide that that it would freeze in between rehearsal and the actual service. So I got in the habit of double checking that it was actually going to play, and that gave me, there were a couple of times where I was able to restart the computer and we didn't have as much of a delay before the service started, because I started implementing that backup protocol. So yeah, that's a little fun fact. And something that was really cool uh, in this journey is really no one, like, I didn't get to where I am by myself. I had, like, Noah and Seth were, like, so for me, and I'm so grateful for both of them and their encouragement. And there was this one time that Noah really kind of fought for me. He was like, dude, you're actually just as good as I am. I've just had more opportunity to fail because people have put me in a position where I get to try something. I learned what didn't work and what did work, and then I moved forward. And he gave me an opportunity to play SPDS, which is essentially a sampling pad. It's kind of like drums, but not exactly like drums. Some of the stuff transfers. It's a lot. Yeah, it's different enough from playing drums that it's challenging if you've never done it before. And he gave me this opportunity to play drums or play SPDS at Bayside staff meeting for the first time. He actually told the person who was scheduling it that he couldn't do it, so that way he would, and then recommended that I do it. And then he actually practiced with me for 2 hours the songs. I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 songs that were going to be happening the next morning, so that way I could feel as prepared as possible. And his words were so true. He also asked me to play at Bayside College, and he actually played bass because he could play drums and MD at the same time. I wasn't there yet, so then he played bass, MD'd, and I played drums, and we kind of did that together at what was then called Bayside College, is now 1825, or Bayside 1825. And like, I could start to feel myself growing a little bit more confident each week, and also having him believe in me and my potential to grow and to become better was so important. And I was able to improve with every opportunity. I made a lot of mistakes, and I kept learning from those mistakes. And then something that I never foresaw was he actually ended up having to go back to New York because he had a health issue, which was, I was so sad because I loved him. He was so funny and so fun to be around, Noah was. And what I wasn't able to anticipate was how all those reps, the help with the SPDS and believing in me and going like, hey, you need, like, saying to other worship leaders like, hey, you need to, like, let Daniel try. The only reason why he's not there yet is because of the lack of being put in the space to try. And then he was gone, but he had given me this small runway of about a month or so where he had, like, helped me and allowed me to see some of the things that he was doing and how he operated. And all of a sudden, it was only me and Seth Kaminsky as the drummers who were in Thrive School, and they had lost a really reliable and solid drummer in Noah. And so what ended up happening was Seth was busy with other things, and so I ended up being the only other option that was available. And so from December of my second year of Thrive. So I went to Thrive in 2016. 2016 to 2017 was the first year. 2017 to 2018 was my second year. And so from the December of 2017 to the beginning of 2018, I ended up playing drums a lot more. So I played Wednesday mornings in staff meeting, Wednesday night at Bayside Folsom for middle school and high school, Thursday nights at Bayside College, now Bayside 1825, and then also either at Bayside Folsom. I played drums some at the Santa Rosa campus right after all those, I think it was fires that just destroyed so much stuff over there, and that was a really great opportunity to be able to play drums over there and just be present during those times and just be with people who had lost so much. And then I was also able to play drums at Bayside Adventure, and it was like such a whirlwind, but in those 6 months of playing, what is that, three, four, at least 4 times per week with different sets, different songs, different people, I grew so much, and also had an incredible, I started to gain so much more confidence in my ability to play, and not just play the songs, but also be aware of other things and other musicians. And I just gained so much capacity playing that much in such a condensed period of time. I did the math, and the amount of drums that I played in those 2 years would take me, if I were playing drums 2 times a month at a, like, volunteering, I would have to play for 8 years to do the same amount of reps that I did in 2, because I was playing so much. And what I found, which was kind of amazing, was even at that time that this 22-year-old was good enough. Not perfect, not even always the top choice, but willing to work and develop and put in the effort, all the effort that I could muster. And I grew more in those 6 months than all the rest of the time. I just loved, specifically Bayside College or 1825, just that environment of, it was kind of a trial by fire a little bit, because there were times where we would go into rehearsal and not know all the songs we were going to play yet, and then choose sometimes during rehearsal. Sometimes I would get a text and go, here are the songs, and it's 2 hours before rehearsal. So you go, oh, okay, I'm going to learn this song to the best of my ability, and then I'm going to play it tonight for the first time. And as challenging as that was, it also grew me so much, as well as I learned how to be present and in the moment. And part of that was I learned a lot from Chris Bivens, because although we had a structure that we would follow of these are kind of the songs that we're going to do, there were always potential for moments to happen where he would change what was going on. And whether that was a in between songs, we weren't going to transition straight into another song, if we were going to do a bridge again, or if we were just going to sit in a moment. And it allowed me to kind of step back from just being so structured and so rigid about these are the songs that I'm going to do and we're not going to deviate, to let me pay attention to him and his body language and what he's doing, and be aware, because we could be doing a song and he could turn around and make this like a drum hit with his hands, and I would go, okay, we're going to do a drum break. Or we would be doing a song and we would die at a certain part and then build again, or finish a song but not go right into the next song. Like, it was just a lot of, I needed to be awake and be able to play the song, but also be looking at him to know where we were going. And I think I also, what was cool about that was I learned a lot about God in that moment, and in playing drums in that space. That for me, I love having a plan, I love having structure. And so a part of that was realizing I need to be focused, and I need to be paying attention to God and have a structure in my life. And then also realize that there's going to be drum breaks, there's going to be moments of stillness, there's going to be an extra chorus or an extra bridge, and that's okay, that's normal. And I loved that. And I loved getting to learn that in that way, that it's so important not just to know things, but also be paying attention in the moment, to be able to adjust as God's moving in my life. And at this point, I've conservatively played drums in front of over 60,000 people in the last 5 years. And it seems like that presence that was so against me playing drums at 14 through 16, that it was onto something. That getting me to stop would have meant a lot of people not getting to experience God's presence through this skill that I've developed and choose to deploy. And that having dreams and the courage to go after them even if there's strong opposition, that it's worth it. And I also learned that in the moment that opportunity strikes, it's too late to prepare. Like, I played drums for no one. I think I played drums one time in front of, like, I don't know, maybe 100 people in middle school. But for 7 years, 100 people. And then over the last 5, I think now, over the last 5 years, at least 60,000 people. That's a really big shift. And my continued development also meant that my name actually got passed along, and I actually was able to start working at a church called Vintage Grace. And that's a story for another time, but I've become and am continuing to become a person who prepares with intensity, because I keep finding that it's preparation. The years of doing the things that aren't the most attractive or the most fun, the things that sometimes even I didn't want to do, but those things separate me and allow me to show up at 100% because of that preparation. That each set, each moment is an opportunity to bring 100% of me into. And it's kind of cool too, because now, for the first time in a really long time, I haven't played drums in over 3 months. So in my drumming career, this is the longest period of time that I have not played live. And what's epic is I'm actually going to be playing drums again at Vintage Grace this weekend. And I am so excited to get to play drums again. And it's something that I love, and that I continue to look for how can I develop, what can I do more, what can I do better, what can I do different. And it's also just something that I enjoy and that I want to continue to use and deploy to allow other people to grow closer to God and experience Him through music, through dynamics, because it's such a gift. And yeah, this was probably one of my favorite stories to share, because I think it's so easy. I think often people see me play drums and go, "Oh wow, you're really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, I really sucked for a long time," and I think that's important to know, that in any area that most people are good at, they didn't just arrive there overnight. And I love that there was this long period of preparation, and then being in the right environment with enough of a foundation to where I was able to grow exponentially. And that's something that I'm continuing to work to cultivate in my life. And I hope that this inspires you, and that we would be people who would live by faith, be known by love, and be voices of hope, and that we would dream great dreams, like playing drums in front of 60,000 people, or whatever those things are for you. Because honestly, that wasn't even a dream that I considered. I just one time did the math and went, holy crap, that's a lot of people. And not that it's not about me or the numbers. I just think that numbers tell a story, and that's why they're worth sharing. And also I'm proud of it. Like, I sucked for a long time, and then I got a lot better. And I'm really proud of that growth, and I'm so grateful. That's why I made sure to mention all the names along the way, because I would not be here and have been able to grow to this point without all those people. And so, yeah, live by faith, be known by love, be voices of hope. Man, I pray that we would dream great dreams and have the courage to go after them. Thanks so much for listening.